Hello and welcome. What is the role of culture in trade, or for that matter, what is the role of multiculturalism in trade? To develop and discuss that intriguing thought and question, I'm joined by R Gopalakrishnan, director at Tata Sons. Mr. Gopalakrishnan, thank you very much for speaking with us. So this is a thought that you want to test, and it's been swirling in your mind as you were telling me. Tell us, why is this something that you feel is important in the context of trade, maybe Indo-British trade?
You know, in general, when you do trade with another country, and I have traveled a lot, as many others have also traveled, you're not just interested in striking a deal and taking the next plane out. You get a bit interested in the society, the culture, the history, and you can buy books on each of them. You never get to read them, but you do try to take a little bit of a subcutaneous interest in all of these put together in order to be able to interpret why people behave the way they do, why they interact in meetings the way they do, hopefully making you a better businessman. So there is a very intricate connection between cultural aspects and trade, as indeed cultural aspects in anything.
Right.
Now, I have always seen the UK as a highly multicultural, multi-dimensional society, probably because of its heritage in history. I mean, the fact that the way they operated in their colonies outside and made a very successful job of it, depending on what measure you use, shows that they were very open-minded, they were fairly absorptive. And if you look at the English language, there are many words in the English language that come from Tamil, Hindi, let alone French and Spanish and so on. So the English to me means a very porous, multicultural society. And one of the reasons why they became the world's greatest traders at their apogee, I have attributed to the fact that they were highly adaptable and they were multicultural. So that's the context of, I see it as a virtue therefore.
Right.
I see India as a highly multicultural for reasons which I don't need to elaborate. Most of us understand because we don't know it any other way. And therefore India and UK understood each other very well, not merely because of history and so on, but this multicultural aspect in an invisible but palpable sort of way, I think brought us closer as compared to other colonies. If I look at some other countries and their colonies, the moment the colonialists went, they rejected their language, they rejected their monuments. Not so here. They really loved the English.
Embraced and adopted.
Embraced, adopted, and we put, okay, if you're in a political situation, you may say something, otherwise we love it. The fact that we are talking in English shows that after 50 years after independence, 60 years after independence. Latterly, though, probably in response to the threats of security in the world, I have found European leaders like Angela Merkel, like Nicolas Sarkozy, argue that multiculturalism is dangerous. And their definition of multiculturalism is when you let people come in, that's fine, but if you allow them to retain their own identity, it creates a whole new set of problems.
Right.
And I think we all know what they were referring to.
Yeah.
I won't be surprised about getting it from Nicolas Sarkozy, but I was really surprised when David Cameron said the same thing. And the chief rabbi in the UK said the same thing. And it started getting me thinking, and this is very recent, of course, it is not explaining anything. I hope UK is not losing its multiculturalism, which matches with what my Sanskrit teacher taught me back in school of our tradition of what we call Swikriti, which means each one unto himself, and yet we can live together. The Parsis came, they have their own tradition, their own religion, their own practices, their own enclaves, their own conclaves, and yet they are mixed, as the story goes, like sugar in the milk. So our concept of multiculturalism, and Britain as well, was like a vegetable curry, where each vegetable is distinct and can be recognized, and yet they're held together by a source of nationalism.
Right.
Whereas if you look at European cuisine, they mash the whole thing and extrude it into some sort of a pate of something. And that's not my concept of multiculturalism. So I'm mentioning this point because I don't know if it really is very important, but that probably is one reason why gradually, and there are other reasons I'm sure, the Indo-British trade is becoming less and less important to each of them, whereas the logic should be exactly the other way around.
Right, and I think I mean it's good to sort of dive deeper into what the real reasons could be, or one of the many real reasons could be. What can change this? I mean, you've pointed an important aspect of trade and cultural relationship. Should both countries work on it, if assuming they're cognizant of this being an important point, and this could be an important point?
I think so, because the level of tolerance and toleration is a very important part of a total relationship. And I think over the years, the focus on the special assets that we began with have got whittled down, some by the passage of time and some by neglect. So very much like a machine which you have to now spruce up. And I do believe that if we are now, Britain I think is 15th largest partner for India or thereabouts. To the best of my recollection, soon after independence it was number 1,
Yes.
That's understandable. But even in the mid-80s, it was number 5 or number 6 I think, if I remember right. So it's slipping in the class. It could become number 30, in which case, but I compliment the BBG for bringing and creating this really big event and convention. And while many people will have opinions on bonds for visas and trade and movement of natural persons, I'm just bringing those together into a larger subject of multiculturalism and wonder whether there's something deeper happening in society which is also needs to be addressed.
And it surely does seem that it
It
must
seems
be, yes.
valid, though I can't prove it, but I just thought I should offer this point of view.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gopalakrishnan.
Thank you.